Lisa stated, if you guys have any questions, there we go. Please feel free, to interrupt. If not, then um, you know, um, go on mute so I don't have any echoes because I just had one, and I go crazy when I have things like that. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear me. Again, Ivan Painter. I am a cybersecurity professional. I'm not crazy about the word expert because I constantly study and I'm constantly indulging myself into the environment. I am a CISSP. I am a certified ethical hacker. I have other regional certifications as well. From some of our suppliers, so that's what's up there. A member of the Dallas InfoGuard, which means it's part of Homeland Security, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, which means I'm kind of an old guy, but not really. I've been doing this from birth. This is my hobby. This is my profession, and it's something I just truly enjoy and really love to do. So today we're going to be going over cybersecurity. This is what I consider my 101 class, but it's really moreover, this is what's out there. This is what's occurring. I also speak on current topics as well. If at any time you have questions or if you have a comment or if there's something that just sparks in your head, please feel free. Quite often we talk about malware or that's effectively just a bad guy coming in, right? So viruses or ransomware or spyware, it's all part of malware. It can get into your computer or your network in a lot of different ways. And we'll be going over a lot more of this in detail as we move forward. Phishing, quite often we've heard a lot more about this as of late, and this seems to be really the impetus on how a lot of systems are becoming infected today. Colonial Pipeline was one of them. It was pure phishing, supposedly. Not really sure about that, but effectively, it is just putting something out there, a piece of email or probably a piece of spam to get someone to click on it, right? Or spear phishing can be an attack, especially on that either individual or that company itself. So it's a targeted attack. Usually, it's levied against C-levels or somebody within that industry that they are really trying to target. LinkedIn is a great source for assisting spear phishing attacks. Exploits, those you're going to find in a machine that has not been patched or that has a piece of software that has some type of open vulnerability, and somebody takes advantage of that open vulnerability. They've exploited it, right? And distributed denial of service is, imagine a system communicating with another system and says, "Hey, are you there?" And before that system gets a chance to respond, it says, "Yeah, I am." It says, "Are you there?" again. And then before it gets to respond, it says that. Well, imagine that happening a billion times within a second. The machine itself just gets annoyed and just kind of goes, "Well, do whatever you want to do," or it just gets overrun, or it does not allow anything else to occur because it's so busy just doing this. So denial of service can be done to either stop business or to try to overrun a particular system to try to gain access to it, right? So there's a lot of different ways bad guys can get in, and all of this leads us to the infamous ransomware, right? And we've seen so much of this as of late. It's just become a point of contention that everybody is aware of it. It's costing us just millions and millions of dollars. It's a crazy thing. So really, what do we do about ransomware? My background stems from a company called MCI. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And then after that, it was Verizon Business, then Verizon, a couple of different organizations, and then finally here. With that, I gained experience along the way in different capacities. I spent a lot of time either running or being part of a security operations center. Those are SOCs. Within that, the SOC will entail all of these things we're about to cover quickly. Firewalls, VPN. That email protection is very important. As well as the assessments or penetration tests. I think those are probably two of the most important things that could really do within cybersecurity. And then I think also the SIM. A lot of times we talk about what is a SIM. Well, a SIM is a chip inside your telephone, yes, but it's also a device that collects and correlates events and logs from throughout the entire environment. And I say environment, it's no longer a network. It's an environment because it can be in the cloud, it can be on-prem. It's our laptop that we take wherever we go, or a pad or a phone. But all these devices generate an event or a log. And then if you imagine if we could have all of those in one place, that would allow us to have greater capability and visibility into what's going on within the environment. And lastly, I want to speak about the most important thing, I think, of all is the new human firewall. And that's all about education. So let's break it down real quick. A firewall. We all know what a firewall does, or hopefully we did. And back in the day, it was a really efficient, effective way to block the bad guys and keep them out of our environment, right? We are going to just stop all the bad traffic from coming in by setting up certain rules, and you guys can't come in anymore. Well, that works pretty good if we're all in one location and we don't travel that much. But along came COVID, or actually even before COVID, we were kind of a little bit on the mobile side. So, firewalls were unusual, but we had opportunities or tools to bring us back to that firewall. And one of them was a VPN. It was a virtual private network. It is a piece of software that either encrypts that tunnel from point A to wherever you're terminating to. So if you're going to your work environment or web page or whatever, it would allow for that tunnel to be encrypted and nobody could really see what's going on in that path. The ISP couldn't, your boss couldn't, the government couldn't, and especially hackers that can possibly compromise. But that's changed a little bit. The firewall is no longer that protecting that shell because that shell is moved, but the VPN is there. Hopefully, we're all using one to extend that firewall to protect us all. One of the main points of contention and the main area of compromise is through email. And we all need to be very careful of what we do. Two things. Number one, what we click on, and what we view or what we accept as a granted email or an email of factuality. Quite often, somebody might come through, or a piece of spam might come through and says, hey, we caught you doing this. Take a look at this document. And the next thing you know, you click on that document and it's not what you thought it was going to be. Nothing happened, or maybe you thought nothing happened, but now your system is infected, or your network is infected, your environment is infected. It can happen just that quickly. And you, as the end user, or your users, whoever click on that, may not know that it actually occurred. So an email gateway will stop a lot of that spam. It will stop a lot of this that malfeasance that's being sent through, because it knows what to look for through those emails. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't stop all those emails sent from a Nigerian prince who's going to send you $3 billion. But hopefully, we're smart enough not to be clicking on that kind of stuff or giving up that information. Um, I told you before, I believe that security assessments were very important. And effectively, what this is a stake in the ground, and it will tell you where you are at that time right now in your security journey. Are you doing wonderful? Or do you have issues that you need to address? Or do we really need to start all over again, or identify where the problems are? So, an assessment is going to be an overall arching view of what's going on currently within your environment. It does not move. It is just that point in time, but it can be done on a regular basis. And I would highly suggest, if you have not had one, to reach out to the guys at Greg, or guys and gals at Greg, to have an assessment done, really understand where you are as far as what you need to do, what you're doing great, and what you might need to have improvements upon. It's a good, solid document from a third party that's going to really elaborate upon that. It's a great vehicle for economics because it can tell the CFO, this is what we don't have, and this is where we need to make improvements. And if you don't believe me, this is a third party. It's also a very dangerous document because it takes a liability off of you and puts it on to someone else. So if you are the CFO, this way you have the guarantee that, well, this is money well spent because I've had a third party verify that. So let's talk about that SIM. Well, it's the same thing. Penetration testing, very similar to an assessment, but from the outside in, kind of like a bad guy that you're hiring to break into your environment. But he's not wearing a black hat at this time. He's wearing a white hat. So we call him a white hat hacker. And he's doing your organization justice by showing you what he can do, or he or she can do from the outside in, or even from the inside, what is available, what the exposures are. This is something that's not just an assessment overarching. This is something that's actually showing you where the vulnerabilities are and what you need to patch up or to close down as far as ports go, or where you have exposures. It's something that should be done at least once a year, and it really has a lot of value. Okay, one of the things that I really preach upon a great deal is the correlation of all these different events that we're seeing out there is within your environment. Everything, as I stated before, generates an event, an alarm. You can have alarm paralysis by looking at all these different events and alarms and trying to make sense out of them. Don't do it. Have a machine do it for you. Have a system do it for you. It's another one of those layers that's required for cybersecurity to make sure we understand what's going on. Your routers, your switches, your VPN tunnels, everything is going to generate some type of report. Imagine if you could put all of that in one place and make sense out of it, make some type of logic out of it, understand where the bad guys are. Well, why is all of a sudden this happening instead of this? This is standard. We see this on a regular basis. This is outside the norm. That's kind of what we call behavioral analytics. It's something that's different. And a SIM will be able to help you identify some of those things quite quickly and readily. There are some that are very expensive and quite complicated, and there are some that are very easy to use. All of this is kind of required to make sure you have those multiple layers. And with security, there's never a single bullet or never a single cover. Yeah, there's a checkbox that you can click, but it's only a matter of time. It's not, well, nobody wants my stuff. Somebody's going to get you sooner or later because it's all about money. And to me, the most important thing that you could possibly do is to educate everyone. We are all now the human firewall, and I'd love to be able to coin that phrase. But effectively, because of COVID and the internet and IoT and everything else, we all have now become the firewall that we used to rely upon to protect our corporation. We have to do the same thing with humans. We all have to be cognizant of what the emails are coming in, what we're receiving via text message, what we're receiving. However it comes to us, we need to be careful about how we respond to it. Quite often we respond as quickly as possible without really thinking about what we're doing. Quite often we have thousands of passwords, and we want to reuse those to make it simple or easy. I don't like passwords at all. I don't think we should use any passwords. I think we should have multi-factor authentication, but that's a whole nother story. At the end of the day, we all have to be trained. And truly, there's a little logo up there that says Pepcock. Problem exists between keyboard and chair. It does. If I could get, or if I could remove the human element, I think 75% of all the malfeasance that we see in ransomware would just go away, because we are the ones that are clicking on things. We are the ones that are plugging in that USB drive. We're the ones that are causing the problem. So we have to train, and we have to be cognizant, and we have to slow down and make sure that we are doing the right things at the right time for our organization and for us. All of this is part of the layers that intermingle, that are combined together to provide a really secure basis for our environment. And that all comes from one location. That's the Security Operations Center. Okay. It allows for all those different entities I talked about, that firewall, that VPN, that SIM, even some of the ones I didn't speak of, that IDS system, that behavioral analytics, that vulnerability scanner that should be running once a week to identify what's going on in your network. All those things can be done from one location, from that Security Operations Center. Well, that's a lot, Ivan. I don't need all of that. Okay, well, I get it, and it's expensive, but I always have questions about why you think that your information is not required to be protected, or why your customers are not important enough to protect. But there's other things that we have to consider as well. And one of those are massive, and it's compliances. And a lot of us know about some of the major ones. You know, we know about HIPAA. right? So that's for healthcare. We know about GDPR for the international folks, for the UK and the like. But those are some fines that are kind of in the distant wings. But what about if you do business in California? What about if you do business in New York? What about the local state that you're in, Michigan? Everybody has some type of compliances that we all must meet. Look, the Biden administration just issued a new executive order that I actually read last night. Well, most of it before I passed out, was simply for the fact that there's new stuff coming out and we all have to pay attention to it. It is going to be driven by the FBI, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, and many others that are going to ask us all to share information, to be cognizant of what we do, how we do online. Even right now, we have the new issuance of CMMC, that you see up there, Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. All that means is that if you do business with the government, if you do business with the DoD, you have to have your organization up to a certain level of security in order to get that contract and maintain that contract. All of these things are part of compliances that are being levied out there. The bad side about compliances, there are money involved if you violate them, and the fines are massive. We've seen some fines from Google and Facebook have paid millions of dollars for violating either HIPAA or GDPR. It's remarkable, and these are companies that can afford it. Imagine if you're a small industry or a small company that you violated a trust because you expose your customers' data, and now you have to pay to get your ransom, or you have to pay your insurance company, or you have to pay to recover, and then you're levied another fine because you violated the local compliances. These are all things that are also part of that security operations center, right? It's very dangerous out there right now, and there's a lot of things to take in consideration. So it's not just the bad guys, there's also good guys that are gaining money out of this. So we all need to be cognizant of what we're doing and how we're doing it. All right, a lot of stuff there. Lisa, any questions so far? It all
Yes, we
quiet?
do have one that came in through the chat. To just if you can expound on how LinkedIn might be opening
Oh,
us up to
absolutely.
dangers.
Okay, so great. So that sounded like somebody that was thinking, okay, I'm going to think like a hacker. Um, let's think like a hacker for a second. Not that I've ever been a hacker. I just play one on television. I've never been on television. Um, Imagine I want to do what I call, or what's called in the industry, a digital footprint upon you. I can go into LinkedIn and identify where you currently work, what your history might have been, who's associated with you or who's associated with your organization, who's associated with that organization. You can see people with the same last name that you have associations with. You can see what organizations that you might follow. And if you're friends with that person, you get even more data on them when they're taking a promotion, when they're looking for a job. There's a great deal of information that we give away on social media. LinkedIn is one that can be used for phishing or spear phishing attacks. Executives like to post things. Salespeople love to post things on LinkedIn. It's a great way to go and find out more and more about them. And if you really do a study, you can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on Instagram. And once you start pulling all that data together, you have a great deal of information of their digital footprint. And that is a great way to start either spear phishing because it's focused upon that individual or that organization, or it's a great way to scam them because it looks like you already know a lot of the hacker already knows a lot about their organization, that person. It's like, you remember me? We went to high school together. Remember? We both graduated the same year. It's all on LinkedIn. Okay. It's all, we're sharing this information. We need to be very careful about what we put out there. So hopefully I answered your question. Okay. So let's triple cross because I know my time is limited. Let's talk about I'm not crazy about this new phrase, the new normal, right? So we all are now collaborative experts. We all know how to use Zoom and Ring Central and all these new fancy things that before it was just picking up the telephone and making a call. Remember the rotary phone? Anybody? Yeah. Now it's texting or it's sending a message, even encrypted messages now, right, over particular services. So we all know how to collaborate now. Some of us are cats when we talk to judges, but you get my point. The bad guys aren't going away. They're using everything they possibly can. The pandemic, the inoculations, anything they possibly can to ramp up the fact that it's getting worse. Look at what happened with Colonial and how many people just went after gas or whatever the shortage was at the time. This is what we're doing, and we're allowing the bad guys to control this. We need to be very careful about this. Networks have all expanded. We're no longer within that cluster around that firewall. Now we are all at our homes. We are all mobile. We have devices that take us everywhere. Our phone has more information than the law allows. Imagine how much information you transfer on a regular basis from your car phone to your car. Imagine if your car was stolen, how much data is contained there within your vehicle. Okay. So yeah, they stole your car, and that's really bad. But they also stole a lot of information too, especially executives or somebody that has a new vehicle. All that data is downloaded somewhere on a hard disk within that vehicle. So think about that too, right? Networks have changed. Ransomware. Oh, ransomware is crazy right now. We've been involved with quite a bit of it, in the millions of dollars. We've seen gas lines pop up out of nowhere for SCADA systems, which means they should be air gapped from the internet and from public consumption. And for some reason, that one wasn't. Meat packing plants, that are being ransomware. We've seen it everywhere, from schools to travel agencies to entire cities. We've actually rescued quite a few cities as far as Intelisys goes from being ransomed. And here's the key: if you're ransomed and you pay, quite often they never talk about the second time you've been ransomed, because it happens. The first time was for 10 million. The second time was for 10,000. That 10,000 is just a blink of an eye compared to the 10 million. Yeah, I'll pay that. Okay, here's your 10,000. Now go away. Right? It happens. And if you read or delve into it, you'll see that it's there. All of our clients, you guys, are now Google experts because we all Google everything. I got a t-shirt for Christmas that says, I don't need Google. I have my wife, right? She knows everything. If we don't know something, or if we want the best of something, you know what we do? We don't necessarily go to experts anymore. We Google it. Well, let me tell you something. What you're going to see is what Google puts out there first. Or even if you go to DuckDuckGo or something else, it's still a matter of what's in that search environment. So you've got to rely truly upon those that have been there, done that. It's the best fit for the organization, not the best piece of equipment or the best software. So let's really rethink of what you're learning on Google. Yes, it's great to know what security-wise you need, but it's also better to know what's the best fit for you before you go and make that investment. I've seen that happen with a lot of folks. We still don't know what we don't know. Are you telling me that your organization is 100% bulletproof from being compromised from ransomware? Or you are ready to run your organization and not have to worry about anybody even thinking about stealing or having some piece of malware come into your organization? If you are, that's a great organization. Most likely you are not connected to the internet, or you don't have any power running into your organization, because right now it's almost impossible to do. And the statement is, it's no longer when this happens. It's no longer if it's going to happen. I always mix that up. It's no longer if it's going to happen, but it's a matter of when this does occur, we better be ready for it. So how can you be ready? That's a great question, and we'll go into that in a minute. So let's see. Here we go. Didn't click over. This is the new normal, right? So I had a better picture of this. I had a young lady that was filling up plastic trash bags full of gasoline, and putting them in the back of her car. We've got to stop doing this. We really have to pay attention to what we're doing online, because what we do online affects us physically now as well. Now, imagine if we really did have a gas shortage and that was a long time exposure. It could have been very dangerous and detrimental to us. So the new reality, humans are now the new firewall. We all have to be trained. The perimeter is no longer that hard, crunchy shell that the firewall provides. It is everywhere, and firewalls are changing now. It's no longer just a firewall; it is a perimeter, and so we have the capability of having a zero trust perimeter or a software defined perimeter. Networks have all become SASE; they're all integrated. All that means is that data is flowing. So if we have network data and we have alarm data or event data, let's mix those two together, make that a little SASE network or a SASE cocktail. Let's identify really what's going on with that new data that we have, right? We have gone from antivirus from an AV to an EDR, an endpoint detection and response. And that EDR now has evolved into an XDR, oh my, which is nothing more than bringing in network information, SIM data, into the endpoint data and combining all of that together to make an EDR. I love cybersecurity because the acronyms are just crazy, but I live in this world of crazy acronyms. It's really not that hard. The bottom line is you have a guide through this, and the guys and gals at Greg will be glad to help you through this. I'm one of their shepherds to make sure that happens. Right. This is something I love. I adore this with a passion because to me, cybersecurity is not that difficult. I've been doing it for a long time. It's the same thing with when we talk about encryption or control, and we have to demonstrate due diligence. Look, if we're doing business with any organization out there that has been compromised one time, I guarantee you they have stopgaps in place that they won't do business with any other organization unless they can identify. We've got all these things laid out as well. So we're ready to go. And most importantly, and this is what I wanted to hit, that BCDR plan, that backup and disaster recovery plan, it has to be implemented. It has to be tested and it has to be exercised. This is the best and the fastest way to come out of a ransomware. If you can't prevent it, then you better make sure you've got a really good backup disaster recovery plan. And I don't mean to back up to a hard drive that's sitting right there on your desk or, next door or in the closet down the way. It should be, so many miles away in a different area on a different land segment. And the other key is don't back up the bad guy. There's a thing called dwell time. How long has a bad guy been in your environment? If you don't know, that means you're probably backing up the bad guy. The new normal is crazy. And we've got to really start paying attention to it. And the fastest way to get through it is to figure out what your environment looks like. Let's get that assessment done. Let's have that document formulated from an organization that has not have anything to do with your network and take a look at it. The same thing holds true with a pen test, right? These are things that are going to be able to tell you how good you're doing right now. I know I'm running long, so my apologies. So some questions for you. How are you protecting your environment today? How are you protecting your business today? You've got a lot of different options here, right? How confident are you in your security awareness? There are a lot of different bits and pieces that you should be concerned with. Patching is massive. Are you allowing your employees to bring their own equipment? Can you stop them from using their own phones? Event correlation, bringing all that stuff together and truly identifying what needs to be identified, getting rid of all the noise, and then really working on what you need to be working on or focusing on. And then the brand reputation. I still think of Sony and Home Depot as, those are the guys who were hacked. Yeah, I know that they're better, and that was a long time ago. But still, in my mind, they were the ones that were hacked. We can look at everybody might have been, but we still have to be cognizant of they didn't really take the precautions that they should have. I wonder how much money they lost. A law firm that I talked to not too long ago was down for 3 days. For the time that they were down, for those handful of attorneys that were there, they could have paid for managed services for 1 year, being down for 3 days. We really need to think about driving that car without insurance or doing business without managed cybersecurity services. My last bit, who's watching your environment at 2:00 in the morning? You can pick the holiday. New Year's, Christmas Eve, whatever. The Russians are always knocking on your door. I get to pick on the Russians because my name is Ivan. All right. The Russians are knocking on your door. Can you see them? Are you paying attention to it? Who's watching your network? Who's watching your environment? Do you know who's accessing your Office 365 or your Google Mail? It's just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean it's safe. So it's things you have to think about. And last bit, one size does not fit all. So you can have a managed service, but one size does not fit all. So it's a matter of finding the right service for the right problem, right? And that's pretty much it, guys. Are there any questions?
We did have another one through the chat. What's the best way to begin the process of protecting our company? Is that penetration test as step one, or what would you say is step one?
Step one for me is always an assessment. You do the best way to do it. Frankly, I love talking to organizations. I will be glad to get on the phone with anyone and just run through what you currently have and what you don't have. But I would not say that that's an in-depth assessment. An assessment really needs to go into your processes and procedures. It should go into your backup disaster recovery plan, all the different elements and accesses that are there, right? And it goes a lot deeper. With me, I'm just going to point out some of the major things that you might have and that you should move forward with, and how you currently are positioned. So there's a lot of easy ways to begin. Having a conversation with the great communication systems and myself, you're right on. That's a great way to begin. Or getting that assessment. If you want to go deeper, let's have that assessment. Let's have an independent assessment of your environment, of your network, of your cloud, of how you're doing business as far as processes and procedures go, of the visibility. And then you can go from there. You have a document that states, this is what we're doing great. This is where we need some improvement. That's the best way to start.
If
Anybody?
there's any other questions, don't be shy about unmuting yourself to verbalize your question if you'd like as well. And then, so Ivan, if you could scoot to the next slide for me, I just want to point out if there's anyone on the call today who currently does not have a relationship with a Greg account manager, please contact Dave Letourneau. His information is here via his email, phone number, and he can make arrangements to get you connected with one of our account managers based on your particular needs for what you're looking to get done. If you do have a Greg account manager, please reach out to them, to your sales rep, as a first step to dig in further. We can schedule calls with Ivan here to kind of dig in and help you with what you need for the cybersecurity.
Awesome.
Okay, well, with that, we will go ahead and wrap everything up. Thank you all for attending this webinar today. Keep an eye out for the link of the recording of this session with some other materials I'll be sending out to everyone here. So we do appreciate your support. Thank you so much, Ivan, for being here with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for all of our customers. We look forward to working with all of you more here in the future.
Awesome.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll see you. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.